Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am Michelle Carter, the Director of Educational Content and Programs at Shape America. Beyond the Check-In, Empowering Parent-Student Dialogues About Health is produced and developed with funding from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and in partnership with Shape America, a national organization that serves as the voice for health and physical educators, Care Guidance, a consulting group who specializes in health education, and the National Association for Media Literacy, better known as NAMELY. So I'd love to introduce my colleagues to you. We have Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Michelle Chula-Lipkin. I am the Executive Director of NAMELY.
We have Christy.
Hi, my name is Christy Glenn. I am the founder and chief executive officer of Pinnacle Partnerships. We do a lot of work around family engagement, but I come to you today representing the lived experience of being a parent who has and always will be raising a child with mental health needs and also as part of the neurodiverse community. Thanks for welcoming me here today.
Yes, thank you. And we have Brittany.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brittany Eccles, and I am the Health Education Curriculum Manager with Care Guidance. And thank you for having me today. Thank you.
No problem. So glad you all are here. So through Beyond the Check-In, it's our goal to provide parents and caretakers with background information and resources to effectively support their middle school students' social, mental, and sexual health through media literacy. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Michelle, I'm going to start with you. I like to think of media literacy as that thread that is woven, and it's really connecting these important topics of social, mental, and sexual health. So for our parents, and just to kind of get us all grounded, what exactly is media literacy and how does it relate to safety?
Okay, great. So we define media literacy as the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act using all forms of communication. So you can really, see it as building on the foundation of traditional literacy. What does it mean to be literate in today's world? And the purpose is to see individuals have skills like critical thinking, effective communication, and knowing how to actively participate as citizens in the world, because we are all swimming in a media saturated world. And the goal of media literacy is to understand media messages, their power, their purpose, their agenda. And media literacy education urges us to think deeper, right? And see how media and information influence us, our beliefs, our values, our relationships, because media messages have profound impact on us. And it's really vital that kids that are young, going through adolescent, understand how to navigate these messages that are all around them. And when it comes to safety, we have to see education as safety, right? So rather than framing the question as how do we keep kids safe, what if we started with the question, how do we prepare kids for success? What do our young people need to not only be safe, but to be able to get on that bike and ride? And that is what's so important about media literacy, because it allows them to build those skills.
I love that. This image right here just resonates with me so much as a parent. And honestly, listening to that definition, I'm like, I need to learn a little bit more about media literacy and practice some of these things myself. But really listening, it sounds like media literacy can be and honestly really should be a part of the solution when addressing a child's mental, social, and sexual health. So I like to get practical, and we're talking to parents here. So really, what does that look like at home?
Right. So with young folks in middle school, we really want to frame the conversation at home about having a healthy relationship in the home with media and technology. And that means the entire family, right? We want to ensure that we're engaging with our young adolescents on these issues. So really thinking about what does it look like to engage. And if you think about this quote, so it's not our job as parents to put away the phones. It's our job to take out the phones and teach our kids how to use them. I think a lot of cultural conversation right now is very fear-based for parents, and that gets very overwhelming. There's a lot of fear being spread about our kids using technology and especially social media. And we have to stay focused on what we know are the facts. So what does the research show? First and foremost, you can look at some of the reports that have been, released recently. For example, the American Psychological Association, their report that they issued really shows that using social media is not inherently beneficial or harmful to young people. If you look at the Surgeon General's advisory, got a lot of press, but it says that more research is needed to fully understand the impact of social media. And it actually says that social media can provide benefits for some youth by providing them with connection and community. So we have to really think about what we're seeing in the news. What are the cultural conversations, and what does the research say, including a meta-analysis that was done. So an analysis was done in 72 countries, and it shows no consistent association between well-being and social media, right? So we have to think about what are the questions that we're asking to help our young people be successful in the world. And I am of the belief that if we ask the wrong questions, we are not going to solve the right problems. And as a parent, especially of middle schoolers, we need to really think about our own behavior, right? So they are watching us way more than they are listening to us. So my request to parents is to reflect on your media use, exemplify good behavior, ask yourself questions about your relationship with media and technology. Do you like to wind down with screen time? Do you get distracted? Do you procrastinate because of your phone? Do you overshare? Do you like to have your phone close by? We often critique our middle schoolers as they enter this phase of being independent online, and we need to check in with ourselves and our behavior. That will be able to focus on the home as opposed to just looking at our child and kind of judging their behavior.
I love that. Yes. So really just teaching them how to use it. And really that takes us looking at how we're using media and our devices as well. Christy, you mentioned having a lived experience, having a child with mental health needs, and is also part of the neurodiverse community. I'd love to hear your thoughts in response to this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Michelle, what you just said is so powerful. As parents, I think oftentimes the minute our little infants get into our arms, we're automatically afraid, right? So we tend to make fear-based decisions because we want to protect everything, right? We want them to have perfect, wonderful lives that have no strife and no conflict, and they're super healthy and all of those things. And, along comes social media. And for many of us, we didn't grow up with that. I remember me and my sister fighting over the house phone. And so these are things that I think are not innately built into our own childhood. And so it's definitely something that I often talk to families about, is trying to make decisions based in love and not in fear, and actually asking yourselves that question. Am I making this decision right now because I'm afraid, or am I making it because I love my kid? And so if I love them, what does it mean for me to make this decision having all of the information? And I think you said that perfectly. How do we check our resources, checking and double checking, and where are the sources coming from? And I think this has been some of our own media literacy developing as adults and as parents, and as media has continued to grow, that we have learned we can't just take for granted what we read immediately. We need to do our own research about all of the things that we are taking in. And then this is also a great way for us to show our middle schoolers how they can be checking their own resources. So if they see us, hey, we saw this thing on the news, we're checking the resources of that, then they start to think, oh, maybe I shouldn't just believe what I saw. And this is extremely important. And I think especially for middle schoolers, this is definitely a time around I'm sorry, do we have sound?
I can hear you.
Okay, I just saw in the comments. Okay.
Oh no, sorry. I was doing something else. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. So I think especially in middle school, this is a time where kids are developmentally normally thinking about their bodies changing, their sexuality, they're thinking about the massive importance around social needs and their social peer groups. And so social media and other types of media is extremely important. And so this is an extremely important conversation. And I'm so glad that we're here having it together today. And I'm really excited to provide these great resources to families.
Absolutely. That is very helpful. And just talking about asking the right questions, getting the resources around media literacy. We do have a conversation starter guide for parents that help you with those right questions. Sometimes we ask leading questions and we don't realize it. Sometimes our child comes to us with a question, and because of that, we might stop. So these will help with prompts and give you explanations, how to guide that conversation. And so someone touched on it, overwhelming. We have your back. We have you. We got you. So those are coming. And so stay tuned till the end. Brittany, I'm going to turn to you. Your expertise and your background is in skills-based health education, curriculum, and instruction. So we talked about wearing two hats here. I got my parent hat, my educator hat on. When I have my parent hat on, I'm like what Christy says, you get a little fearful. You think you're going to be one way and you become a parent and you kind of switch it a little bit. So, and it can be overwhelming thinking about those topics of mental, social, and sexual health. However, when I put on that educator hat, I'm like, this is so important. And I need to ensure that we need to ensure that our youth are receiving the information that they need, and they are building health skills around mental, social, and sexual health, making sure that the content is age appropriate, and that does happen in health. So for our parents, can you share the goals of health education?
Sure. So when we talk about health education, the goals, or I would say like the overarching goal, is always going to be around having young people or helping young people develop the skills that they need, the skill set that they need to develop health literacy. And so when we talk about health literacy, like we're really honing in on what knowledge and skill things do young people need in order to maintain health enhancing behaviors, as well as providing them with the opportunity to practice or even navigate various situations that may lead or cause harm, right? We also really want to make sure that we're giving them the opportunity and the skill set to really, that will help them delay the onset of experimentation or even engaging in less safe behaviors, okay? And so when we talk about parents and caregivers, I think about bridging the gap, right? Like, or sometimes it's like, it's that we miss the community part, I guess is the best way to say that, right? Like we need to figure out how can we work in tandem to support young people, in my opinion. And so part of doing that really is continuing the conversation that starts in the health education classroom. And so that's why those conversation starters are so important. But one thing that I heard and I really love, when Christy talked about like protection, right? And so for me, it's almost like reframing what protection looks like. And so when I say reframing, like instead of us like telling young people, no, don't do this and this is not appropriate, we have to understand where they are. Middle school, and I'm going to say middle school babies because they're near and dear to my heart. I taught middle school. But middle school young people really are starting to develop like their own autonomy, right? So like they're able to think for themselves, they're able to do for themselves. And so we do not want to shame them or cause fear when it comes to how they navigate media. What we do want to do is give them the door, the opportunity to have conversation, ask questions, and not feel like they're being shamed. And really, we do that by giving them the skills needed. So that's really where health education, in my opinion, has shifted, because at one point in time, we only just gave information. And now we're not just giving information, but we're giving skills. And so when it comes to us in the health education classroom, we're providing knowledge and skills, and how parents and caregivers can continue to do that is you're giving young people the opportunities at home, whether it's them allowing them to see how you navigate media, you having conversations, you even giving them the opportunities to practice how they navigate media. And so it really is about how, in my opinion, we reframe protection. Protection is not always saying do not get up and do. Like, you never would tell your little person, don't get up and walk. You just then start to figure out what can we do to ensure when they do decide to get up and walk, if they're able to do so, like what do I need to do to ensure that when they start to walk, they may not necessarily fall and hurt themselves, right? But also helping them understand you may fall when you first start to walk, but when you're falling, what are we going to do the next time? Okay. Like, how can we navigate these spaces to ensure that we're giving young people the things that they need to really just help them navigate these terrain waters that they may have never been in before. So that's going to be the definition. Anything else?
No, that's good. You're saying so many good things that are like hitting all the points. But what I'm really hearing is like, I love what you said, health class, health education in tandem with what's happening at home. And to put it in a neat little package, it's like skills and information, it happening at home, but the practice part, skills and knowledge at school, the practice happens at home. They're able to go in real world and they're doing all the application piece. And that's really important. So this whole program is focused around mental, social, and sexual health. And I'd love to hear your age appropriate definitions for middle schoolers. What are those?
Sure. So when we talk about mental and emotional health, or mental health, specifically at the middle school level, like we're trying to communicate about how mental and emotional health helps young people understand like how they think, how they feel, as well as like how they navigate or cope with life changes. Because at this age, like those are the things that are taking place. Also, we're also trying to help them understand like how mental health can impact or affect like their moods, our emotions, and how we handle stress. And last but certainly not least, when we're talking about this type of health, one thing that we're also trying to do was underline how we really should be taking care of our mental health, right? And what it means to not just understand, but how do we manage stressful situations in healthy ways, because they will arise, but also knowing when do you need to seek assistance? When can you ask for help? When should you ask for help? So that is how we define it at that age. All right. So when it comes to social health, with this age group, we want young people to really understand how they build and maintain healthy relationships with others, right? And it also includes like how they communicate, how they make friends, how they resolve conflict, how they show respect, as well as empathy. And so with this component of health, we want them to understand that good or optimal social health, it really can help them feel connected as well as supported by those around them. And the other part that we want to include, because we are talking about media and things of that nature, social health also includes like that digital or online footprint, right? So like, what are some things that you are engaging in? Like, what do you post? What do you like? What do you share? What type of messages, are you finding yourself engaging in? So really helping them understand that it's not just the physical side of social health, but also like that online presence or that digital footprint of social health and social interaction. All right. And so when it comes to sexual health at this level means understanding and respecting our bodies, as well as relationships and emotions. It really is about helping them understand and learn, about personal boundaries, consent, and how to make safe and healthy choices based on their where they are, right? And based on real world experiences. So that's one thing that I failed to mention when I was talking about the goals. Like, we really want to make sure that we are meeting young people where they are, right? Like, we're giving them experiences and opportunities that mirror the lifestyle that they are living in, right? And so going back to sexual health at this level, it also means giving them accurate information. So we are not hiding information from them. We're not saying, oh, well, they don't need to know it. No, they actually do need to have accurate information in order to engage in that skills component. We talk about functional health information and health education. the key word being functional, accurate. They need to be able to have this information in order to then engage in the skill. So like I said, sexual health, about giving them accurate information to engage in skill development and skill progression, and actually just getting to a place where the skill, where using the skills become second nature. We also want to make sure with sexual health that we are encouraging young people to know when they need to seek a trusted adult to ask the question, or if there's a concern, or if there's something that maybe resonating with them that they feel like they really need to get more information on. So really just giving them that skills piece to navigate, as well as have autonomy over their own sexual health at this age.
Yes, those are really good definitions that I'm hearing. Accurate information, and then parents were going to have to put that fear down a little bit, right? And be an open resource, because you want them to feel like they can come to you with that. So that's really great. I mentioned those conversation starters. That's a good place to start to help you empower yourself and get comfortable with talking about these things and asking those right questions, right? Those will be on a QR code at the end of this. So, Christy, you mentioned that your organization provides families with support and tools needed to navigate the complexities of raising children with different health or learning needs. When you hear Brittany define the goal of health education, and she defines these different topics, what comes to mind on parents, how to best support parents and all students, whether they have special needs or if they're neurodivergent?
Yeah, I think that it's really important for families to think about what it means to have these conversations, especially during these years. They can feel like there's some awkward chats that we're having with our kids, right? Our kids don't necessarily want to engage in these conversations. They're like halfway backing out the door when we're trying to talk to them. And, all of these kinds of dynamics start to unfold as Brittany said, that when kids start having their autonomy around their body and their lives, and they're grappling with all of these different things about their own physical and emotional development, right? And as they're really stepping into the person that they're becoming. And so I think it's important to think about this for typically developing kids, as well as for kids that are neurodiverse or have different types of learning needs, that the way that we approach it may be different. For typically developing kids, understanding social circumstances and having social health may be easier than a neurodiverse kid who thinks very black and white. And so it may be hard for them to understand those nonverbal cues that happen in a peer group, versus with a neurodiverse kid, it may be much easier to talk about sexual health because they're very understand facts-based. Just give it to me straight, and I'm taking in these facts, and give me my marching orders, and they kind of really understand that. We're typically developing kids, sometimes when you start to talk about sexual health, they're like, oh, start to get uncomfortable about it, and they're uncomfortable in their bodies because their bodies are changing, and all of these things. And then, of course, there's just the cultural considerations of all of our different families and how we talk about things and what feels good to us as parents and caregivers, and how we think about how we have these conversations with our kids. But I think it's important to remember that we are the experts on our kids. We know every bump and bruise and scrape and tear that has happened along the way, from when they were little all the way until they've made it to middle school, and they have made it under your watchful eye. And so it's important for us to continue these conversations about media literacy and making it a healthy conversation in a way that feels like it's something that you can come together on instead of being pulled apart by. And I think a lot of times, because we're worried about our kids, we tend to think like we need to set these strict parameters, and without having the conversation, a lot of times that can create challenges within our relationships with our kids. And so I'm glad that we've been able to have this conversation today about how to have healthy conversations with our kids, and us learn from them, because they know a lot about technology. And then therefore we can do our own research and really think about what works for our family and our kids, and be able to be great parents and continue to be great parents and also be great partners, right? Because the other part of this was health education in schools, right? And so how do we continue to partner with schools? Because as kids get older and they get into middle school, there is definitely less communication, less opportunity for parents to kind of be in the room. And you see, like, as kids get older, there's less and less parent engagement that happens. And that's something that I always tell families, like, let's work on that. And we work with schools on, let's work with engaging families more so that everybody is on the same page and kids are getting that consistent messaging about their mental health, their social health, their sexual health, what is being taught in the classroom, how are we practicing that at home, and parents and teachers can talk together about how we stay on the same page so that we get the best outcomes for our kids and they're living healthy lives.
I love that. So good. So this is about our time together. I know I've really enjoyed it. But before we go, Michelle, Christy, and Brittany, if you had to leave our parents with one short sentence, one thing you want them to think about after they turn this video off, what would it be?
So I'd say that this is the age, middle school is the age where you start to hear parents say that their kids are obsessed with their phone and don't spend as much time with them. And it's because of their phone and social media. Two things on that. One, your kids are not obsessed with their phone. They're obsessed with their friends. And the phone is the portal to the friends. So remember that. And secondly, they are in middle school. So they are seeking independence and autonomy. And it actually isn't about the phone. It's about, they would be doing it anyway. We did it when we were 12, 13, and 14, and that's what our kids are doing. So just recognizing that there are some natural things happening when your kids start to separate from you in middle school, and that we have to support that and support their independence.
I would say that you are not alone as parents. The same struggle that you're having with your kids, other parents like you are having. And maybe you go on to Facebook or some other place if you're not connecting with families directly because kids are kind of all over the place, and find that Facebook group that's other parents that are sharing information or other types of support groups where you can really connect with other families and start to share your stories and start to share the things that are working for your families and get to know each other, because there's unity and community. And it's really helpful to hear that you're not the only one with a kid who is in their bedroom with their phone and you don't know what to do about it in that moment.
All right. If I had to end with the final thought, like I just would say, embrace the conversation. It may feel a little bit weird. It may feel uneasy because technology sometimes is newer for us. Like we're learning as they've already figured it out. But be open to having the conversation and continuing the conversation with young people. So embrace the new, embrace the opportunities to converse with your young people.
Well, I'm glad this is recorded because I have elementary kiddos. I have a fourth grader. And so in a couple of years, I'll know how it feels that my kids are not obsessed with their phone. They're obsessed with their friends. I love so many good things from each of you. Thank you. Parents, please check out the resources that we have here on this QR code around this important topic. And I love that, Brittany, on that ending note, be that open door, be there for them. It's a hard time for you and for them, and being able to be that constant source and providing them with good, accurate information. You have that really important piece as a parent. So thank you for watching. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.